Peace. This is Watts for Wadsworth Media, back at y'all for another round. And today, on this Top 5 Tuesday, we're going to go with, to close out this historic month of August 2023, which has been a month-long celebration of hip-hop music, the 50th year anniversary. I'm going to go with top 5, or my top 5 hip-hop producers of all time. So to start things off, at number 5, I'm going to go with a man. This brother came from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast and has put together one of the greatest catalogs of beats you've ever heard. And his sound is almost like he was born here in these streets of New York, and that's none other than the ALC, Alchemist. Alchemist, man, from the moment he stepped on the scene, which was on Mobb Deep's Murder Music album. He produced the joint Thug Music. His sound seems like a merger of his mentor, DJ Muggs from the legendary Cypress Hill, combined with Havoc. And his sound has just been incredible. He absolutely set the tone for Prodigy and his solo album, his debut solo album, with the lead single, Keep It Thorough. From the moment that beat drops, I mean, oof, that is one of the illest beats of all time. That's one of the hardest singles of all time. With no chorus, I keep it thorough. Woo! Yo, straight bars and a crazy beat. Then he's had joints like one of the most dangerous tracks of all time, Capone and Noriega's Bang Bang. Woo! That joint, you want to talk about, man. He followed that up with joints like My Book of Rhymes, which is one of the dopest beats, which is on Nas's album Godson. He's done, I mean, Alchemist sound is legendary, and it's a signature sound. It's one of those sounds that when you hear it, you know it's ALC. His debut album, First Infantry, was fire. He had nothing. It was one of those press play albums. You just press play, nothing but bangers straight through. So yeah, at number 5, the ALC, Alchemist. Number 4, the aforementioned co-mentor of Alchemist, and that is none other than Havoc from Mobb Deep. Havoc, I'll never forget what Cormega said about him. Mega said, if Havoc was more open and more open into working with other artists and not just holding everything from Mobb Deep, he would have been the East Coast Dr. Dre. And I thought about that when Cormega said that, and I'm like, yo, Mega's absolutely right. Like, the amount of bangers, and just a small sample serving that he did give us, which was joints like Last Day that he did for Biggie. Woo! That is the hardest song on the album. Like, when you talk about street songs, that is the street banger of street bangers on that album, Last Day, produced by Havoc. He gave Nas joints like Live Rap. Woof. And yo, NYC, you and I verse Severely, Havoc and P, like it's supposed to be. Woo. Mega got word back from Noriega. Man, like Havoc, even on Capone Noriega joint, Illegal Life, woof, bangers. He's got nothing but bangers on Angel Dust on Cormega's joint. Like, he's got some bangers, man. And what he's done with Mobb Deep, those albums, from Infamous to Hell on Earth to Murder Music, there's just there's no matching. Like I said in my video last week, Mobb Deep, when it comes to Havoc and Pete, these brothers had 3 championships. They had a 3-peat. They dropped 3 albums that were 5 mics. Some people drop a 5-mic album. Few have dropped back-to-back 5-mic albums. These brothers had 3 5-mic albums in a row. I challenge anyone to show me a solo artist or a group that has dropped 3 5-mic albums in a row. You could drop your line, drop some bars in the comment section. If you think you found one, yet to find any that did it. And it was all under the production of Havoc. So yeah, man, gotta give Havoc his flowers. Havoc at number 4. At number 3, I gotta go with a man that doesn't get enough praises. He doesn't get enough flowers in hip-hop. And this man right here is probably the man that inspired your greatest or your favorite producer. And that is none other than the great, legendary Erick Sermon. Erick Sermon, I mean, you want to talk about a brother that came out the gate flying with a classic, and that's EPMD's Strictly Business. You know, for him to produce those beats, and you know, PMD I'm sure had his hands on it too, but Sermon became more of the lead producer as the group's evolution continued. And Erick Sermon also produced one of the greatest. That second album, Unfinished Business, is one of the greatest albums in hip-hop history. If you haven't heard Unfinished Business, the second album, where they both sitting on top of, I think it was like a Benz or a Saab or whatever it was at that time. If you haven't heard that, do yourself a favor, go listen to that album. And one thing that I want you to do is pick up how many of those beats have been sampled. People have taken that whole album apart. I mean, song after song. Get At Me, Dog, from DMX, the lead single from DMX that blew him up. Get At Me, Dog is the Bozak from that album. That's a beat from Erick Sermon. That's the Bozak on that album. You got what's the name? So What You Saying? Beanie Sigel and Memphis Bleek did their rendition to that, where they verbatim was spitting the words, used the beat. You talk about songs like what's the name? Fame. Fame was sample for the Sugar Hill remix by AZ. You got the joint with K Solo. That joint became California Love. Tupac's probably one of Tupac's biggest, if not biggest, singles ever. So that whole album has been sampled and all produced by Erick Sermon. Not only that, but then they stepped up and then they gave us the Headbanger, one of the most grittiest anthems in hip-hop history. The Headbanger, which introduced a young Reggie Noble, Redman, which, yes, credit to Erick Sermon. He not only brought out Redman, but Erick Sermon produced Redman's first 4 albums. So we're not only talking about the success of Erick Sermon with EPMD and all those great beats and bangers he produced for EPMD, he also produced all these great beats and bangers for Redman, because he did all of Redman's albums. So this is a brother that even when he lent a helping hand and assisted in other people's projects, we got legendary tracks like Reservoir Dogs on Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life album. You know, like when Sermon's on, and he's one of the greatest producers ever that just doesn't get enough credit, man. He just doesn't get enough credit. So at number 3, I got Erick Sermon. Number 2 and number 1 is very difficult for me, man. On certain days, I could go with number 2 as number 1 or number 1 as number 2. But let's just do it, man. At number 2, they're interchangeable, but number 2, I'm going to go with DJ Premier. DJ Premier can easily be number 1 of all time for me, but I mean, like, you got to look at the magic that DJ Premier. First of all, the longevity. Up to this day, from the mid-1980s all the way until now, this brother for almost 40 years is still producing bangers. Bangers. And not only is he producing bangers, but how he does it. He uses the MPC 60 and the SP12. The MPC 60, for those who produce, know, the MPC 60 gives you like 2 seconds of sample time. For the magic, the sound he's coming up with just 2 seconds of sample time, it's magic. It's unbelievable, the things that man can do with that MPC. So yeah, we gotta give that man his credit. Not only that, the countless, look at, first of all, he is responsible to co-half of one of the most legendary duos of all time, and that's Gang Starr. Gang Starr is one of the greatest groups of all time, and he produced all them Gang Starr albums. So, tremendous credit for that. But then when he lent the helping hand, the assist, he's the man that gave Biggie classics like Unbelievable, Kick in the Door, you know, the 10 Crack Commandments. He's given Nas bangers, straight bangers like what's the name? I Gave You Power. He gave him Represent, New York State of Mind, New York State of Mind Part 2. He gave Nas I Gave You Power, which is one of the most legendary historic songs of all time, where Nas personifies himself as a gun. And he just, oh man, like, he gave us some of the most legendary assists. He gave The Evils to Jay-Z. The Evils, Friend of Folk. Bring it on if you think you can hang. Woo! Mannerisms of a young Bobby De Niro. Spit Spanish wisdoms in the whip with De Niro. What? Diamond Clean, Eye Cream, High Post like Hakeem. Come on, man. He has gates so gutter, so ghetto, yo. So ghetto. He's giving Jay-Z bangers after bangers. Yeah, Premier's worked with everybody. All these legendary rappers and giving them the best of the, like, probably the banger of all bangers on these albums. So, and the longevity and the magic, the ability to make this sound with just 2 seconds of sample time, it's unbelievable. No pun intended. And that leads us to number 1. By now, hip-hop heads, you know where I'm going. And that's nothing but the RZA, Ruler Zigzag Zig Allah, commonly known as the RZA. When you hear the RZA, man, that sound is one of the most cinematic productions you ever hear in music. RZA's sound is made to draw up illustrations in your mind. RZA was so ahead of his time, not only putting a group together, but he used to make seasonal music, right? Like, he said, I wanted GZA's album Liquid Swords to be a winter album. And with joints like Cold World, it gave you that feel. He wanted Raekwon's joint to be a summer banger. And they captured that on that album. So, you know, it's been, you know, with joints like Ice Cream and all that. So, RZA is a visionary beyond visionaries, man. Check this out. Go back and listen to the song Bring the Ruckus, right? Inspector Deck revealed that the snare drum on that beat, the snare, that loud pop, pop, that loud snare drum was RZA's creativity. RZA decided to put a microphone inside of a paintbrush and bang the paintbrush, the paint can, I'm sorry. Put the microphone inside of a paint can and hit the canister, and that's the snare drum. If that ain't God level genius, what is? What also separates RZA from all other producers is that RZA is the only brother in hip-hop music, only producer that ever produced classic solo albums. You know, your Raekwon's, your Ghostface, your Method Man albums, your ODB albums. Classic duo, Raekwon and Ghost, and a classic group album, the Wu-Tang albums, be it 36 Chambers or what's the name, the W, or even excuse me, I meant Wu Forever, and even the W, because the W was a highly slept on album, supremely underrated. The production, lyrics, that people like to say that Wu Forever was the last Wu group album. Nah, the W was the last Wu group album, if you want to talk about things in that term, because that W was a banger. But yeah, think about that, man. RZA's the only producer that ever did masterpieces, 5 mic albums for solos, duos, and group album. Unheard of. Nobody has ever done it, and that alone right there, along with like the bangers like Cream and, you know, Bring the Pain and Method Man and Shame on a you name it, man, you name it. Triumph, Incarcerated Scarfaces, Glaciers of Ice, All That I Got Is You, the storytelling, set the tone for the storytelling. Like, RZA's ear for music is unheard of, man. To be able to put that unique visionary of ODB and give him beats that accompany that. Like, come on, man. There's nobody like RZA, man. Yeah, RZA deserves #1. You know, so yeah, for that unique sound. RZA also, and he told us to do our homework. He said he was the first to use strings on beats to give his beats more emotion. And he said, I was the first to do that. Go back and look. DJ Premier wasn't doing that until after 36 Chambers. So, yeah, man. RZA gotta be #1. #1. So, yeah. There you have it, man. That's my top 5 producers of all time. I got Alchemist #5, Havoc #4, Erick Sermon #3, Premier #2, and RZA #1. So hit the like button, drop some bars in the comment section below, and let me know who you have as your top 5 producers of all time. I'm Wise for Wise Words Media. Peace.